Off the coast of Sharlayan, in the Sea of the Northern Empty, there exists an island once deserted, until it caught the eye of a prestigious archon. He purchased the land with his great wealth, and upon it he developed research facilities, Ethernet systems, and even his own orphanage. This is the Isle of Val. Galif Baldesion was the patriarch of the esteemed House Baldesion. In his youth, he yearned to see the wider world, going on many grand adventures with his brave companions. During their adventures, they learned of many threats to Hydaelyn, including the monstrous primals. These experiences motivated Galif to use his accrued wealth to purchase the Isle of Val, so that he may research how to stop this looming threat. With the backing of Sharlayan's Forum, he founded the Students of Baldesion, an organization devoted to uncovering the mysteries of Hydaelyn and interpreting her will. In his orphanage, there was a girl, a young Lalafell girl who was much different than her peers. She possessed a strange power, and it greatly troubled her. This power was the Echo, and it manifested within her when she was just 12 years old. She developed a sensitivity to the whispers of the soul, their intent, their very essence. This power left her overwhelmed by the thoughts of others. Galif was deeply concerned by the girl's plight. He chose to adopt her and gifted upon her a name. Her name is Krile Baldesion. Though Krile struggled with her powers, Galif believed they were nothing to be feared. He gifted her a garment, a token of his belief that her unique trait was a great strength. This gift was a cape donning large ears, meant to symbolize the Echo. Krile was so touched by his gesture that she continues to wear robes of the same design to this very day. To ease his adopted daughter's plight, Galif directed the Students of Baldesion to study her powers. Though at first she was a subject of their experiments, she eventually joined the students as a member. She attended Sharlayan's studium, becoming an expert in curative magics. It was during this time that she grew close to many others. Among her dear friends was Graha Tia, a fellow student of Baldesion studying the history of Alag. During her research with the students, she also befriended another girl with the Echo, the leader of the Path of 12, Minfilia Ward. In the present day, Krile is now 22 years old. She continues her research with the Students of Baldesion, seeking to serve the greater good. In the aftermath of the 7th Umbral Calamity, the Path of 12 merged with the remaining members of the Circle of Knowing. This new organization would come to be known as the Scions of the 7th Dawn, and it was taken under Minfilia's leadership. She's still close friends with Krile. She often speaks fondly of her, and seeks her help when she needs aid from Sharlayan. One such incident occurred when another Scion, Thancred, was possessed by an Ascian. To try to save him, she had Krile arrange for an artificial crystal of darkness to be transported to the Scions, an item they would use to free their ally from the Ascian's influence. The Scions would continue to work with Krile and the Students of Baldesion as they try to fend off against the Garlean threat within Eorzea. But during their collaboration, something happened. The Isle of Val disappeared. Urianger, another Scion, bore the grave news. An etheric wave of the highest magnitude was recorded in the region. Soon afterwards, it was discovered that the Isle had ceased to be. Just like that, an entire island of people had disappeared. Not all hope was lost, however, because a survivor of this incident was found. It was Krile. Though she had yet to regain consciousness, by some miracle, she survived. Minfilia was greatly relieved to discover that her dear friend was all right. Little did she know, she would never speak to Krile again. In a plot devised to destroy the Scions, a bloody banquet was held in Ul'dah. Many Scions went missing that night. Some of them fled, some of them were magicked away, and one of them would be gone forever. Another friend gone, but not the last. During this time, another of Krile's dear friends, Graha Tia, had also gone away. He sealed himself within the Crystal Tower to follow his own destiny and to never be seen in this lifetime again. Galuf was gone. Minfilia was gone. Raha was gone. And suddenly, Krile Baldesion was alone. Though the bloody banquet parted the scions, they were not broken. They never gave up hope of reuniting with their allies. They'd already found their companion, Y'shtola, who had been whisked away by the flow. But they needed help to find the others, so they sought out a friend in Sharlayan. And that is how Krile was to come to Eorzea. She had recovered from her ordeal, and her powers of the Echo made her well equipped to find other scions who had been magicked away. This summon for aid was how Krile first met you, the Warrior of Light. You await Krile in Idleshire, along with your fellow scions Alphino and Y'shtola. She recognizes Alphino from her time at the Studium. She had served as a guide for him and his sister back then, and she has many mischievous tales of him to share. Krile is quite the tease, and she's not afraid to press her allies' buttons. She had been informed of the events of the Bloody Banquet, and the means in which Y'shtola had called upon the Flow to help her escape with Thancred. Like Y'shtola, his soul likely left a trail when he was whisked away, and Krile is confident she can follow it. But she can't do it with her abilities alone, so you request the aid of Master Matoya, Y'shtola's mentor. She is in possession of a crystal of light, the Crystal Eye, and it's possible it may be used to focus Krile's abilities. Matoya is familiar with Krile, as she knew her grandfather, Galuf, back in the day. However, her grandfather is gone. He vanished, along with everyone else on the Isle of Val. It was only thanks to the Blessing of Light that Krile was able to survive that tragic incident. She explains the current situation, and how she may be able to use the Crystal Eye to locate Thancred. The Crystals of Light are formed by Hydaelyn, created to grant a sliver of her strength to her chosen warriors. Over time, Hydaelyn's power has waned, and so too have the potency of her crystals. Given that Matoya's Crystal Eye is from an earlier era, it is far stronger than the crystals of this age. Matoya grants permission to utilize the Crystal Eye. Krile focuses her power through it and follows the trail of Thancred's soul. It leads to the foot of Samal in the Dravanian Forelands. Your destination is set, and you begin your search in earnest. By questioning the locals, you get a lead that directs you to the Voth. A Huron man matching Thancred's description has been doing trade with them. He has since gone to Lost Ass Noth to investigate the summoning of Ravana, the Noth god. You follow suit and search for him in the Noth colony. With the power of her echo, Krile can hear the colony chattering. They are loud, so unbearably loud. This overwhelming noise causes Krile to let her guard down. A fight has broken loose, but it's not Thancred that's found there. It's a different Huron man, joined with his comrades. The group of them take down Ravana in front of Krile and the others. Upon approach, she finds herself having a vision with the Echo. She's not the only one, as the Warrior of Light and the group of unknown heroes have visions with echoes of their own. A glimpse of the group's past appears before you and Krile, a vision of them confronting a man in black, an Ascian. Despite sharing a common enemy, these people are not interested in teamwork. Krile's group is suddenly under attack. They're close to being overwhelmed until an old friend makes his appearance. It's Thancred. He joins the scuffle, and with his help, the unknown warriors are pushed back. They decide to make their retreat. They identify themselves as the Warriors of Darkness, and you will meet them again. This encounter is troubling, but your goal was a success. Thancred has been found. Another scion has been reunited. With your search concluded, you and the scions have matters in Ishgard to attend to. In the meantime, Krile returns to Master Matoya to begin the next step of the search, The Search for Minfilia. How did Minfilia escape the bloody banquet? By perusing Matoya's tomes, Krile develops a theory. When the Warrior of Light and Minfilia were fleeing Ul'dah, Minfilia said that Hydaelyn had spoken to her. She stayed behind while you made your escape. It seems reasonable to conclude that Hydaelyn had given her the command to remain. The Mother Crystal had directly interceded. If so, surely a residual trace must have been left behind, a lingering disturbance in the ether, a ripple. To establish that such ripples exist, Krile wants to investigate the battleground of the Ultima weapon. In your battle there, Hydaelyn had intervened to shield you from the spell Ultima. By analyzing the ether in the castrum, Krile can compare it to the ether in the Silda aqueducts where Minfilia was last seen. If they're similar, it would confirm that Hydaelyn had indeed been involved in Minfilia's escape. Minfilia is important to Thancred, and he is eager to help Krile. The two of them team up to sneak into the castrum. Krile is keen to use this opportunity to get to know Thancred better. She knows he's close to her dear friend, and she would know more of his intentions. He reveals to her that Minfilia is indeed dear to him, but not in the way she might think. He has a long history with her. He admires her resilience, and she gives him hope. Hope for a brighter future, and he would do anything to make her dreams come true. Thancred would also know what Minfilia means to Krile. She's her dearest friend. When Krile finally recovered from the incident at the Isle of Val, she learned that not a day had passed without Minfilia asking for her. She never gave up hope, and neither will Krile. Her investigation bears fruit, and the remnants of an unexplained disturbance in the ether is found at the scene of the Ultima weapon. A ripple at odds with the presiding pattern. The waveform bears a strong resemblance to what was found in the Silda aqueducts. It's also similar to what was observed following the destruction of the Isle of Val, where Krile believes Hydaelyn shielded her. It's confirmed. Hydaelyn was involved. Krile studies the site where Y'shtola had used flow, and discovered not 2, but 3 beings had been affected. Unlike Thancred and Y'shtola, this third being did not leave a trail to follow. They were simply there, and then they weren't. Though it's just a theory, studies of gifted subjects suggest that, when communing with Hydaelyn, they briefly leave their bodies behind. Hydaelyn may have the capacity to summon the consciousness of gifted individuals to her side. Perhaps she guided Minfilia towards Y'shtola's magic so that she could summon her, body and soul, unto the ethereal sea. And so, that's where your search takes you, and luckily you have a means to investigate. In the Dravanian hinterlands, the scholars of Sharlayan created a structure to provide a vantage point over the ethereal sea, the Anti-Tower, the custodian of which is someone you already know very well, Master Matoya. You petition her aid once more, and she grants you access to the tower. Krile, however, is to stay behind. Matoya needs her help to restore the wards to the tower after she unseals them. She is not witness to the events of the Anti-Tower, though she will soon learn of them. She will learn how the Warrior of Light was summoned to the Mother Crystal, how you found Minfilia there, though she was no longer Minfilia. Upon being summoned to the ethereal sea, she offered herself to Mother Hydaelyn, for those we have lost, for those we can yet save. Minfilia is now the word of the Mother. They speak with one voice, one will, one word. Hydaelyn has grown weak, so weak she can barely make herself heard. Minfilia has now joined with her, struggling to maintain her own form. A harsh reality. Minfilia is gone. She gave her all to join with Hydaelyn and stand against the dark. This bitter truth is hard to accept, but there are other matters to attend to. The Dragonsong War is approaching an end, and talks of peace are on the horizon. At the Falcon's Nest, a peace conference is being held, a ceremony to celebrate the union of man and dragon, a ceremony crashed by a foul fiend, Estinian Wormblood, under the possession of Nidhogg. He attacks his fellow dragon and makes a declaration of war, a war that will never end until Nidhogg is gone. Estinian is transformed into the terrifying worm, flying away as the crowd chants for his head. Krile was witness to this encounter. Even before his transformation, she could feel Nidhogg's hatred swirling about Estinian. Such all-consuming rage was almost too much for her to bear. It was all she could do not to run away, screaming. She can't help but be envious of the Eorzeans. They're much braver than her, facing danger and death on a daily basis. Estinian is a man important to Alphinaud. He was his ally back when he and the Warrior of Light first came to Ishgard. It pains him to see his current state, fearing he may be lost forever. But Krile gives him reason to hope. Estinian's ether has been all but smothered by Nidhogg. The worm's presence filled her mind's eye, but beneath his seething aura, she sensed the merest hint of something else. The trace of a different will, submerged in the sea of Nidhogg's rage. Estinian's spirit yet lingers. Perhaps he can still be saved. This news brings Alphinaud hope. The Warrior of Light would come to confront Nidhogg. Estinian's soul would be saved from the raging worm, and the Dragonsong War would finally come to an end. Over time, the remaining scions are found. At last, the scions of the Seventh Dawn have been reunited. Though Minfilia has been lost, they haven't lost their resolve. They will continue to work toward Eorzea's salvation. Krile's purpose in Eorzea was to see the scions restored and to find her dear friend. But having involved herself in the scion struggles, she feels compelled to see them through to the bitter end, for Minfilia's sake. And so, Krile has made her decision. She will join the Scions of the Seventh Dawn. Within the solar of the rising stones, a stranger awaits the Warrior of Light. He speaks of a rising threat, of the beings known as Icons. This is Unu Kalhai, and he has sought out the help of the Scions. In the distant past, in the war between ancient Allag and the Mericidians, Icons of Eld were summoned to fight back against the Allagan Empire. They were to fall in the conflict, and the men of Allag devised a means to capture them, to harness the Icons' power. Within the Etherochemical Research Facility in Az's Law, 3 of these Icons were sealed away, the Warring Triad. At the end of the Dragonsong War, the Archbishop Thordan had traveled to Az's Law to acquire the infinite power of the Triad. In the wake of his defeat, the bindings which confine the Icons were severely damaged. They will fail completely before long. If the Warring Triad were to be released into the world, unimaginable destruction would ensue. The Warrior of Light, who has a talent for slaying primals, needs to strike them down before they may lay havoc on the realm. However, the very act of entering the containment facility will not be easy. It presents unique challenges, and you'll need a unique individual to get inside. Through the Scions, Unu Kalhai searched for someone who may be able to get access to the facility, and he found exactly who he needed: Krile Baldesion. The Warring Triad are unable to dissipate into ether because of the restraints the Allagans had trapped them with. These restraints don't just bind the Icons, but also continuously regenerate their corporeal forms. The plan is to split into 2 groups. One group must locate the restraints' controls and disable them. The other must stand ready to destroy the Icons to prevent them from being unleashed from the facility. Due to the risk of tempering, only those with the Echo may safely enter the Icons' den. And so it falls upon you and Krile to get the task done. Krile will disable the restraints, while the Warrior of Light downs the fiends. Unu Kalhai will join Krile in her part. He, too, possesses the Echo, though its nature is different from yours and Krile's. The first of the warring Triad to be taken down will be Sephiroth, the Fiend. He was once the patron deity to a tribe of tree-like beings native to Mericidia. Krile is able to gain access to the Triad control, but there's a problem. The Garleans are also after the warring Triad, and they're approaching the facility. Y'shtola and Urianger remain behind to keep them occupied, while Krile and the others handle Sephiroth. Krile locates the control room and removes Sephiroth's restraints, allowing the Warrior of Light to fell the Fiend. She is in awe of your battle. She's never witnessed a battle against something that large before, and she was terrified. Her legs kept telling her to run, but she couldn't tear herself away. She is curious about Unukalhai. Who is he, really? She senses his soul, a longing for hope, an appetite for power, a lingering sense of regret, and a desire to test his strength against a certain hero. Or so she says. In actuality, she's merely guessing Unukalhai's motivations, a little bit of trickery to get to the heart of the boy, but perhaps some of her words hit close to the mark. While Krile's echo is impressive, it doesn't grant her the ability to read minds. It simply allows her to comprehend, regardless of language, what a fellow being would have her know. But Unukalhai keeps his guard up. He will not have his secrets known. Not yet. The Garlean 6th Legion will not soon surrender its pursuit of Allegan technology. They have broken through into the facility, and they must be stopped before they can control the primal entities. Krile joins the pursuit of the Garleans, aiding with her curative magics, but she gets overwhelmed, needing to stay behind to recover. You confront the legatus of the 6th Legion, Regula von Hydrus, buying enough time for Krile to get back on her feet. Regula flees the facility, and you succeed in keeping the Garleans out, for now. This encounter was an ordeal for Krile. She's not accustomed to combat. She thanks Unukalhai for staying by her side while she recovered. This seems to make him happy. It's nice to have comrades. Following the encounter with the Legatus, erratic etheric waveforms are detected emanating from the sector of another icon, Sophia, the goddess. She's close to awakening, so she must be slain next. But before you can return to the facility, you are under attack. Thralls of Sophia have escaped their containment. They spoke in Mericidian tongue, only understood by Krile and the Warrior of Light thanks to their echo. Should they be left to their devices, Sophia may become too powerful to stop. You and Krile quickly get to work. She removes the restraints on the goddess, and you take her down. Only one of the warring Triad remains, Zervan, the demon. He was a monstrous being worshipped by a race of Mericidian beastmen, but the Garleans have returned. Zervan's servants have escaped from their containment, attempting to wake him to his full power. The Garleans are falling victim to Zervan's tempering, and they need the help of those with the echo. Regula bids the aid of Krile and the others, for he can't fight back against Zervan alone. You, Krile, and Unukalhai team up to try to disable the generator keeping Zervan restrained. But in the process, Regula is struck down, slain by Zervan while protecting Unukalhai. With his dying breath, he bids you, slay Zervan. Once more, Krile unseals the icon, while the Warrior of Light slays the demon. The mission is complete, and everyone returns to the Rising Stones. Upon returning, Unukalhai reveals his true identity. He is not of this world, hailing instead from another shard, the 13th, the Void. He was a hero, unable to save his dying world. He feels he's not suited to be a hero, but Krile offers him some reassurance. It's her faith in her companions that allows her to act unhindered by uncertainty. She knows if she were ever to falter, her companions would be there to support her, and steer her back onto the right path. And as for Unukalhai, he is not alone anymore. The occupation of Alamigo has reached a boiling point. The Garlean Empire has appointed a new viceroy to rule over the nation. All the while, the Alamigan resistance is being rallied by a man known as the Griffin. Another member of the resistance has made the journey to the Scions of the Seventh Dawn, begging for aid. She was severely wounded, needing the aid of Krile and Y'shtola to heal her wounds. She has an urgent message to relay. The Griffin seeks to have the fire of war spread to Eorzea, and to do so, he means to assault the border of Alamigo and Gridania, Baelzar's Wall. It's there that the Griffin did something unimaginable. He sacrifices lives from the Garleans, the Eorzean Alliance, and even the Alamigan resistance. By sacrificing his own life, he summons a primal of pure violence, Shinryu. To fight back against the primal, the ancient machine Omega was released from its bounds. An immense battle broke out between it and the worm, until the two of them flew off towards Alamigo. Krile was witness to this horror. It's clear that the conflict in Alamigo was escalating, and it couldn't be ignored. And so, joined with her fellow scions, she crossed the border to lend aid in Alamigo. The group makes their way to the headquarters of the Alamigan resistance, Rhalgr's Reach. Krile helps in the infirmary, while the Warrior of Light tends to their duties. It was while you were away that Rhalgr's Reach fell under attack. The Garleans had infiltrated the camp. The ambush was led by the Garlean Viceroy of Alamigo and the Prince of the Garlean Empire, Xenos Ye Galvis. Many died in the battle that day. Not even the Warrior of Light could defeat Xenos, and Y'shtola was struck down. Krile stays in Rhalgr's Reach to tend to Y'shtola and the others. It's her actions that saved Y'shtola that day. While she aids the wounded, she also serves as an informant for the Eorzean Alliance. Meanwhile, you and the others travel across the sea to Doma to continue your efforts to liberate both nations. And it's while you're away that Krile is captured by the Garleans. While on a mission to transport the wounded to the Rising Stones, Krile was taken by Commander Ferdola Rem Lupus. She was ordered by Xenos to capture her alive. Krile was taken to an Imperial research facility where they sought to conduct experiments on the Echo. They siphoned the ether from a multitude of supply subjects, while using a master subject as a model to create the same patterns of etheric activity. Through this experimentation, they were able to create an artificial version of the Echo. Imbuing someone with this artificial Echo will turn them into a resonant. This was tested on Ferdola with great success. Impressed with the results, Xenos went through a perfected version of the process and became a resonant himself. It's discovered that the Imperials are holding Krile at the capital. With the aid of the Scions and the Warrior of Light, they break into the Alamigan quarter. They defeat and capture Ferdola, and Krile is saved. She stays behind to recover from her ordeal. In the meantime, Xenos falls before you, and Alamigo is liberated at last. An island has been discovered. In the glass ocean of the Eastern Sea, an island has suddenly appeared. A deserted island that has no business being there. It has caught the eye of Rowena's House of Splendors and the East Aldernard Trading Company, who see it as an opportunity to expand on their trading routes. But there's someone else with a personal interest in the island, Krile Baldesion. Irregularities have been reported in the island's ether, giving rise to a number of strange and monstrous beasts. And so an exploration expedition is put together, and Krile insists on taking part. She has a suspicion, and she needs to know if it's true. The group heads to the port of Kugane to make way for the island, and they encounter two men arguing. Geralt, a craftsman working underneath Rowena, and a young Lalafell man. The youth insists he be allowed passage to the island. Krile recognizes him. It's Ijika Sunjika, another student of Baldesion and an expert in etherology. He was elsewhere when the Isle of Val disappeared, and as such, he's one of the few surviving students. He wants in on this investigation for the same reason as Krile. Before the expedition sets out, the island is given a name. It's named after a place of Allegan legend, a forbidden land where fearsome weapons were hidden away for safekeeping. They call it Eureka. Of course, that's not actually the island's name. When the expedition makes shore, they find themselves in a land overwhelmed with wind, Eureka Anemos. Krile and Ejika both immediately recognize the island for what it really is. Despite everything that's happened, there can be no mistake. This is the Isle of Val. But how is this possible? The Isle of Val is supposed to be on the other side of the world. It was thought to have been obliterated by a terrible magic. Ejika asks Krile if she may have an idea of how this happened. After all, she had been on the island when it disappeared. But her memories of the incident are muddled. All she can remember is a voice calling to her. When she awoke, she was on the shore of Old Sharlayan. Ejika doesn't like her answer. If only others besides Galif's chosen heir could have been so fortunate to have received the blessing of light. He immediately sets off to search for any survivors. He insists you don't follow him. He works better alone. Krile agrees that the first thing that needs to be done is to search for survivors. While taking preliminary readings, something unusual has come to light. The headquarters of the students of Baldesion has been encased in a magical barrier. Someone, or something, has activated its defenses. This might be the work of survivors. Investigating it is a top priority. But how to get there? Traveling on foot would be incredibly dangerous. It would be much safer to make use of the island's Ethernet. And so, the expedition begins its steps to restore the Ethernet system. The Isle of Val has always been filled with danger and death. It's for this reason no one has ever settled on it until it was purchased by Galif Baldesion. To circumvent these hazards, the students devoted many resources to the construction of an expansive Ethernet. Restoring it is the first step towards reaching the headquarters. Great progress is made after restoring the Ethernet system in Eureka Anemos. It's not enough to travel safely to the headquarters, but it will allow travel to nearby regions. It's dangerous to teleport to an unattuned beacon, and Ethernet relays were developed to mitigate that risk. There's an Ethernet control here in Anemos, and you are tasked with making sure it's in working order. Upon repairing the Ethernet relay, a shrouded figure is encountered. He mutters about seeking power, the power to smite your enemies. This figure triggers the echo within you, and a vision of the past presents itself. 4 figures overlook the cliffside, a beacon flowing with ether before them. They speak of a foe with a nigh-bottomless wellspring of ether, a foe they stand no chance of defeating. One of the men speaks up. Until a permanent solution is found, this entity should be sealed away. The others address this man as Galif, and he knows exactly where to seal this threat. An island not far from the motherland, deserted, dangerous. The perfect place to build a prison. And with that, the vision ends. When you come to, the shrouded figure is gone. The Ethernet system has been restored, and Krile is able to warp to your location. You tell her of your vision, and she's taken aback. That was a vision of her grandfather. Without a doubt, Galif was speaking about the Isle of Val. But what was this entity they were speaking of? What was it they were trying to seal away? Galif never told Krile of such things. She wants to ask him, but he is among the missing and presumed dead. However, they were wrong about the island being destroyed. Maybe they're wrong about this as well. With the restoration of the Ethernet control in Anemos, the expedition sets out for the next step of their journey, land overtaken by ice-aspected ether, Eureka, Pagos. Ichika meets with you and Krile there. Despite the distance, he was able to measure a force being exerted on the barrier which encases the headquarters, a force not coming from outside, but coming from within. This suggests it wasn't erected to keep others from getting in, but rather to seal something away. Is the entity Galuf spoke of sealed within the headquarters? Ichika continues his study of the barrier, while you and Krile get to work restoring the Ethernet system in Pagos. While investigating confluences around the region, you encounter the shrouded figure once more. This triggers another vision. You see Galuf and his comrades again. They speak of an icon, one that judges those who are just and true. They're still trying to figure out how to get rid of this entity, but unless they can starve it of its immense ether, they have no choice but to keep it sealed. Galuf has an idea. Reverse the flow. And on that note, the vision ends. As before, the shrouded figure has vanished when you come to. The identity of this man is unclear, but certainly he must have something to do with the entity Galuf had imprisoned, a primal. Krile wants to hear Ejika's thoughts on this and asks you to go find him. When you do, he doesn't hide his disdain for your echo. He admits that he resents you and Krile for your gift. The very idea that another was simply chosen is infuriating to him. Ejika was born into poverty and worked hard for what he has achieved, to earn a place with Galuf and the others, and yet he will never be held in the same esteem as Krile. With his venting out of the way, he offers his insight. Galuf's talk of reversing the flow calls to mind the myriad ethereal currents that crisscross the Isle. A more detailed study is in order. One particular site comes to mind, and Krile will surely know of what he speaks, the Proto-Aetherite. It dates back millennia, and was created during the initial development of technology. With the Ethernet now restored, you and Krile can take the next step of your expedition, to a land engulfed in both fire and ice, Eureka, Pyros. The Proto-Aetherite is near the camp. By studying it, Krile hopes that greater insight might be gained on the many mysteries surrounding the Isle of Val. She takes you to the Proto-Aetherite. Though it's rarely used for transportation, she believes it could easily be integrated into the regional Ethernet, improving your chances of safely reaching the headquarters. According to records found, the vicinity of the headquarters had seen a massive increase in ethereal density almost 20 years ago. Perhaps this was Galuf's doing. By reversing the flow, he could have manipulated the ethereal currents to converge upon the headquarters. By investigating the confluences throughout Pyros, Krile has come to a conclusion. The Isle of Val has come to the Glass Ocean by way of a powerful teleportation magic. The theories of a powerful magic destroying the Isle were incorrect. All the strange phenomena observed until now all stems from this teleportation. But why would someone utilize such a powerful magic? While investigating, you run into Ejika once more. He reveals to you what he learned in Pagos, that the entity Galuf sealed away is called Eureka, the selfsame name the expedition has given the island. You discuss this revelation with Krile, and she's intrigued by the development. She tells you of her friend, Raha, and a conversation she overheard between him, Galuf, and the founders of the students of Baldesion. According to legend, Eureka was the name of an underground labyrinth said to contain the most powerful weapons of the Allegan Empire. Raha had a theory that this labyrinth may be located beneath the Crystal Tower. The founders grew quiet and stone-faced at the suggestion. Galuf simply said no, and ushered the others away. This left Raha wondering if he had somehow given offense. To the founders, Eureka had an entirely different meaning. Though Raha was clearly talking about the labyrinth, their secret knowledge of the primal clearly weighed heavy on their conscience. Krile thinks she knows what Galuf meant by reversing the flow. By diverting the ethereal currents as they did, Galuf and the others transformed the Isle of Val into an arcane ward. By inverting the pattern and reversing the ethereal flow, the primal could slowly be drained of its ether, eventually killing it once and for all. You have been removing blockages in the ethereal flow in your efforts to restore the Ethernet system. In doing so, you've made great strides in strengthening the ward. As it turns out, the founders had a second, secret purpose in constructing their Ethernet. Suddenly, the earth shakes. An explosion is heard. There's a disturbance in the ether. Something's happened to the proto-etherite. It's not working anymore, and it was Ijika's doing. He's trying to weaken the ward, and he's not the only one behind this. The shrouded man, Eureka's avatar, appears behind him. Ijika has been tempered, and Eureka bestows upon him one of its blades. It appears that the primal Eureka possesses the ability to create weapons. Those who wield them turn into its vessel. Krile begs him not to listen to the primal, but her words do not dissuade Ijika. He will await her at the headquarters, at the tower where Eureka is being held prisoner, but he will not be waiting forever. Ijika and Eureka vanish. Krile is at a loss. The proto-etherite is beyond repair. The Ethernet has been destabilized, and the ward Galif has put in place may have been shattered. Nothing is stopping Eureka from feeding upon the ethereal currents. Eventually, it will be strong enough to shatter the barrier encompassing the headquarters. Krile wishes her grandfather was here to help. She doesn't know what to do. Suddenly, the echo grants you another vision. You see Ijika, Galif, and Krile experimenting on the proto-etherite. Krile and Ijika are bickering, as they tend to do. He doesn't hide his disdain for her blessing. He doesn't want her assistance. Krile is frustrated. She wants to work with Ijika. She doesn't hate him. He's a pain to work with, but she enjoys his company. She admires how driven and clever he is, and she wants to see him succeed. Galif is amused by his students' antics. He thinks they make a wonderful pair. When you return to, Krile immediately realizes you are watching her memories. She's deeply worried about Ijika. He's always been stubborn, ever eager to take on the most challenging work, ever unwilling to admit he needs help. To someone like her, someone who's accustomed to being mindful of what people think, in a way she admires how he can disregard the opinions of others. But she shouldn't be thinking about him like he's lost forever. You both must carry on. The expedition has made great strides in its efforts. You've reached the doorstep of the students' headquarters. In a land filled to the brim with water-aspected ether, Eureka Hydatos. All that remains is to reach the primal and seal it away once more. The headquarters are protected by a powerful ward of its own. Due to a high concentration of ether, it's extremely dangerous to teleport inside, and it's very unlikely anyone could have survived in such conditions. The chance of finding survivors is very low. But Krile hasn't given up, and she has a mind to enter through a back door. She heads out to set up the process. When you find her, she's exhausted. She's still not accustomed to danger, and she forgets how much of a boon you are. Her plan involves utilizing ether bridges, which were built to help those who can't teleport access the headquarters. Right now, they're unusable due to an obstruction in the life stream. And so your task is set. Restore the ether bridges. Upon repairing them, you can now enter the headquarters of the students of Baldesion. It doesn't take long to find the primal, Eureka. It's been restrained. Ijika is surely searching for a way to deactivate the restraints. You must find it first. Galif's office is nearby. If there's any useful information, it's likely to be there. Apart from the mess, the office is as it was the last time Krile saw it. She can almost see her grandfather sitting at his desk. You search the office and gather all the information you can. Galif has left a memo on his desk. He writes about how Eureka's abilities are not limited to weapons. It is capable of creating any and all kinds of things. The potential danger of this is unimaginable. If it were tasked to create something like another mother crystal, it could drain the land of all its ether. Such destruction could rival any calamity. This is the true danger of Eureka. Galuf and his companions had sealed the primal away, keeping its location a closely guarded secret. But in spite of their efforts, it was eventually discovered by the Ascians. To prevent Eureka from creating another calamity, Galuf and his comrades resorted to drastic measures. They invoked a powerful magic to drown the entire isle within the lifestream. Combining their strength, they defeated the Ascian known as Emerald, consigning her essence to be scattered within the raging torrent of ether, never again to reform. And Galuf, he accepted his fate. While writing his memo, the Isle of Val drifts into the lifestream. It will become one with the flow, as will all that remains within. If his memo is found, it means that the Isle somehow re-emerged into the corporeal realm, and Eureka remains a grave threat. Galuf begs the potential reader, seek out the scions of the Seventh Dawn. Alert them of these events, see that Eureka is sealed away, and guard it from those who would use its power for ill. You tell Krile what you found, and the time has come to face the truth. She is the sole survivor. Krile remembers that day. She remembers her grandfather's order to evacuate, but when attempting to teleport away, the magic failed due to an unnatural surge in the lifestream. There was no time to escape, and so she and the others were swallowed by the flow. She would have met the same fate as everyone else if it wasn't for Heidelin's intervention. But there are time for tears later. You have work to do, and Galuf would expect you to do it. You find the means to deactivate the restraints. You return to the Primal, and Ijika confronts you there. He is joined by the shrouded figure, Eureka's tool for creating weapons. He was waiting for you to lift the restraint, and now he can properly execute his plan. Krile begs him to come to his senses, but he reveals his mind is still his own. It's time to settle the task that Galuf had entrusted to them. Ijika gives you Eureka's blade. He bids you, with your blessing of light, strike the avatar down. Eureka's avatar has been destroyed, all according to Ijika's plan. Krile is not amused by his antics. He was attempting to win the enemy's confidence so that he could set up an ambush and properly destroy it. But it's not over yet. While Eureka's avatar is gone, Eureka itself still needs to be stopped. You have another vision, and you see Galuf and his companions once again. They're debating what to do about the Primal. Some of them are against sealing it. Eureka must be destroyed. But to do so, you must become its master. Your ether would be Eureka's ether. You would have to make the ultimate sacrifice. Eureka harbors a tremendous amount of ether. Even sacrificing the four of them combined wouldn't be enough to slay it. If a sacrifice won't work, they are left with no options. They must seal it. You return from your vision and discuss what you saw with Krile and Ijika. Galuf has conceived of a way to destroy Eureka, and Ijika means to carry it out. He intends to sacrifice himself. Eureka expended vast amounts of ether to bring the Isle of Val out of the lifestream. It has significantly less ether than when Galuf and his companions had found it. Ijika should be able to destroy it with his ether alone. Krile won't have it. If anyone should sacrifice themselves, it should be her. It's her solemn responsibility as the sole survivor of the Isle of Val. But Krile is protected by the Echo. Eureka would never recognize her as its master. It has to be Ijika. There's no undoing what he's trying to do. As his comrade, Krile will not allow it. The Ascian that discovered Eureka is gone, vanquished in the lifestream. There's no immediate danger. She insists you should seal away Eureka once again and search for another way to deal with it. You are at an impasse, and so the two of them look to you. Whose plan should be carried out? You make your decision. You choose to follow Ijika's plan. After all, you understand the danger the primal poses. You understand it needs to be destroyed, here and now. Krile begrudgingly accepts this decision. Is this truly what Ijika wishes? But it matters not to him. He is merely doing what must be done, so he asks you to spare him the pity. Blessed with the echo, Krile is needed elsewhere. If she has time to grieve, she should do her duty instead. And so, Ijika becomes Eureka's master, and he makes the ultimate sacrifice. Ijika is gone. It's over. And yet again, I'm the one left behind. Grandfather. Raha. Minfilia. And now Ijika. They all did what they believed they had to do, and they're all gone. Why am I always the one who survives? The one who has to suffer the heartache? The two of you return to the camp. Your goals have been accomplished. You learned of the fate of those left behind on the Isle of Val, and you finished what Galif started. You destroyed Eureka. There's still considerable cleaning up to be done. All the research material in the headquarters needs to be retrieved. Her work done, Krile will rejoin the Scions. Her presence is no longer required here, and she mustn't let her grief halt her steps. But something doesn't sit right with the Warrior of Light. Eureka may be gone, but it left behind a fearsome arsenal of weapons. The Founders had sealed away these weapons in the headquarters' upper level, the Baldesion arsenal. Recent disturbances have caused the weapons to become sentient. If left unchecked, they may give rise to new primals. You can't have this, so you raid the Baldesion arsenal and destroy the weapons inside. When you return to the lower levels, you find Krile there. She commends you for your work in destroying Eureka's unholy creations, and she's returned to the island because she has a plan. When a primal is vanquished, its ether is given back to the ethereal realm. However, she believes this was not the case with Eureka. With the nearby weapons having become primals in essence, they would have been quick to absorb Eureka's untethered ether. She believes Ijika may still yet live. She tracked down the trail of his etheric essence and found evidence that he used teleportation magic to escape the lifestream before the primal could drain him of all his ether. His ether was likely caught in the tenacious pull of Eureka's weapons, and with the weapons now destroyed, you might be able to retrieve him from the lifestream. Krile had learned the technique the Elder Seedseer had used to retrieve Y'shtola back when she used the flow, and she will use this technique to do the self-same for Ijika. It's a success. Eureka is gone for good, and Ijika has been saved. He had braced himself for death, and feels strange to have returned. You and Krile still have your duties with the Scions. Ijika elects to stay behind, to look after affairs here in Eureka. Krile is reassured to know that the Isle is in his care, and the expedition comes to an end. The war with Garlemald continues to rage on. There are whispers that the Crown Prince yet lives. The nations of Alamigo and Doma have joined with the Eorzean Alliance, and they are actively working together to combat the Garlean threat. But something strange is happening to the Scions. A mysterious illness has overtaken many of its members. They have fallen unconscious, with no signs of awakening, and every time a Scion falls, the Warrior of Light hears a voice. Throw wide the gates. Krile has also heard this voice. She can't stand idly by during her friend's plight. At a glance, the victims are in fine physical health, but she can't trace the slightest hint of their souls within their bodies. Their essence may be getting drawn to some other place, and so she seeks to follow the trail of their souls, as she did once before. She returns to Master Matoya to seek use of her crystal eye once again, But despite her best efforts, she can find no trace of their souls. The threads of their ether have come to an abrupt end. It's only later you discover what's happened. The souls of the Scions have been called to another shard, another world. They have been summoned to the First, by will of a mysterious figure simply known as the Crystal Exarch. The Warrior of Light follows after them. Krile remains behind to watch over the Scions' empty bodies. With so many Scions out of commission, they find themselves severely short-handed. The Garlean threat still persists, and to stand a chance at fighting back, extra help will be needed. Krile knows exactly who to ask for. A former ally who had survived quite the ordeal during the Dragonsong War, a Stynian Wormblood. Since the war, he has become a vagabond, traveling the world. Krile and Tataru track him down to Kagane and bid for his aid. He doesn't seem very eager to be called, however, and the two girls are forced to make chase for him around the city. It takes some convincing to get him to join their cause. Krile has a vision of his past, something so embarrassing she can't hide her laughter. This was enough for a Stynian. Whatever she saw, he couldn't let her reveal it. And so he is hired to aid the Scions of the Seventh Dawn, sent out to investigate an alchemical weapon being produced in the Garlean homeland. And the vision Krile saw of a Stynian's past? Why, she had no such vision. It was merely a trick. The Warrior of Light and the Scions continue their efforts to save the world of the First. Battle against the Garleans at the Gimlet Dark have ceased, and many truths about this world have been discovered, about the Sundering, the tragic past of the Ascians, how Hydaelyn and Zodiark are both primals, and not least of all, the true identity of the Crystal Exarch. Krile has continued to take care of the Scions' bodies, and it's taken its toll on her. The link between their bodies and souls are weakening. If their souls aren't returned soon, they will die. Time is of the essence, and you return to the First to try to devise a method to return the Scions to the source. Meanwhile, Krile works with Master Matoya to maintain the stability of the Scions' corporeal ether for as long as possible. While keeping Krile informed of the situation on the First, you encounter a Stynian who has returned from his mission in Garlemald. You and Krile both have a vision of what he witnessed. Xenos has returned, and he has killed his father, Emperor Varus. You must steel yourself for what's to come. Krile is able to keep the Scion's corporeal ether stable. She buys as much time as possible until the Crystal Exarch can finish his work and return your friend's souls. But it's not looking good. One moment, their bodies seem in good health. Then, without warning, things took a turn for the worse. Stiff and cold, as if they were made of wax, barely alive at all. The link between body and soul continues to weaken. While Krile does her best to quell the fluctuations in their ether, it's only a matter of time before they're lost. Thankfully, the Crystal Exarch pulls through. With his help, and his blood, you're able to create spirit vessels to contain your friends' memories and souls. Vessels in hand, the Warrior of Light crosses the rift and returns to the source. Your friends' souls are given back to their bodies, and they wake up one by one. But there's one additional spirit vessel you've brought with you. You rush to the Crystal Tower, a vessel containing the Crystal Exarch's memories and soul in hand, and you return them to his body. Some days later, Krile is exhausted. She has been hard at work caring for the Scions now that they've returned to their bodies. She also aided in restoring the ward around the Crystal Tower, and in the process expended much of her ether. The Crystal Tower is safe from outsiders, and its guardian has been freed from his duty. He has joined the Scions of the Seventh Dawn and reunited with his dear friend. G'raha Tia has returned. With the death of Emperor Varus, Garlemald has fallen into civil war. Xenos has returned from the dead, and he is joined by the Ascian Fandaniel. They call their group the Telophoroi, and they're intent on bringing about the final days. Mysterious towers have appeared around the realm, and with them terrifying lunar primals. With the appearance of a new threat, Lunar Bahamut, Krile and Tataru seek out Estinian's aid once more. With his help, you fight back against the Telophoroi and Lunar Bahamut. Krile is concerned by the Telophoroi's plot to destroy the world. Given the gravity of the situation, she bids to petition aid of Sharlayan. With the ancient knowledge amassed in their archives, they may have a clue to the enemy's plan. But Sharlayan has a policy of non-intervention, and it's unlikely they would be willing to help. But surely even they can't turn a blind eye to the end of the world. With the urgency of the matter, Krile has decided to act as Eorzea's emissary and return to Sharlayan to personally request their help. Surely her role as a student of Baldesion will carry some weight with the Forum. Though the organization is now a shadow of its former self, the name still retains some degree of prestige. Before she departs, there's another matter she would discuss: Hydaelyn. With the revelations that came to light on the first, Krile has been questioning the true nature of Hydaelyn's blessing, the true nature of the Echo. It's been some time since anyone has heard from her. Not even the Warrior of Light has heard her voice since the Dragonsong War. Could Hydaelyn's silence suggest the presence of some disruptive force? If an explanation is to be found anywhere, it would be the archives of Sharlayan and their research on the ethereal sea. While Krile conducts her business in Sharlayan, the Scions have found themselves short a member. They need all the help they can get, and so Krile asks Estinian if he would join the Scions of the Seventh Dawn. He agrees. After all you've done, how could he possibly refuse? Krile bids you farewell and makes her return for Sharlayan. In response, Sharlayan sends a member of their forum to Eorzea to answer your request for aid personally. Though Krile pledged your case to as many forum members as she could, they ignored her every word on the matter. It was almost unnerving. Could Sharlayan's forum be hiding something? Maybe they know something about the end of the world. She is having no luck in Sharlayan. The Forum has forbidden anyone from cooperating with the Scions. So she asks you to join her, to get to the bottom of this. To gain access to Sharlayan, Krile lays down the groundwork to have you act as associates for the students of Baldesion, here to aid in the Order's restoration. The Scions cross the northern sea to the homeland, and Krile meets with them at customs. She needs to make up stories for some of you, but ultimately all of the Scions are let through. The Worldly Affairs official finds Krile's choice of company concerning. She advises her to stay in line, else there might be repercussions for her organization. Krile welcomes you to Sharlayan and shows you around the city. Your base of operations will be the Baldesion Annex. While the Isle of Val served as the main headquarters for the students of Baldesion, the Annex is like a second home. Upon arrival, you are greeted by the administration officer, Ojika Sunjika, Ijika's cousin. The Scions meet in the main hall and discuss their next step. It's decided you will split into two groups. One group will investigate the change that's come over Sharlayan and the recent strange behavior of the Forum. The second will travel to Thavnair. The students of Baldesion have recently received a request for aid related to the towers and the lunar primals. Krile joins the Sharlayan group, and you conduct your investigation. Together, you travel beneath the city into Labyrinthos to question the gleaners while searching for a lead. But Krile is feeling unwell. She's dizzy, and she thought she heard someone calling to her. She shrugs it off. You have more important things to focus on. While you question the gleaners, Krile's headache persists. You come across heart blooms, flowers that change color based on the emotions of those around them. While the others discuss their plan to eavesdrop on the Forum, Krile is lost in thought, staring at the flowers. She can hear someone. She can almost reach them. While you set off on your plan, Y'shtola has Krile stay behind. She can tell she's preoccupied, and she wouldn't have her getting hurt. You catch up with her later, staring at the flowers once again. She picks one, and she hands it to you. She was told you would need it for the journey ahead. Told? Told by who? Krile asks if you would like to speak with Hydaelyn. Though she can't match Minfilia's clarity, she can still lend Hydaelyn her body. She could only speak through Krile for just a moment. She struggles to interact with the physical world without assistance. It's in the depths of the ethereal sea, the place where all life returns, where her influence is the greatest. That flower will be your guide. Walk free, and bear the light for others to follow. It's not long before Hydaelyn leaves Krile's body. Already, she seems so far away. Ever since entering Labyrinthos, Krile had been sensing her will, straining to reach out. Hydaelyn's answers were more cryptic than she would have liked, but at least you have a clue. The flower. Unfortunately, your antics in Labyrinthos have caught the attention of the Forum. You're taken to the Rostra, where the Forum will let you make your case and decide your punishment. They see you as a threat. Warmongers sought to meddle with and expose matters of state secret. They don't hold their opinions back. They say Krile has tarnished the good name of the students of Baldesion. Galuf would be ashamed. She will not have it. Galuf Baldesion was never one to forsake his fellow man. He would have found a way to help the Scions, help every soul of this star, and fight back against the coming doom. After much debate, the Forum makes their decision. Until further notice, the students of Baldesion are to cease any and all activities within Sharlayan. Failure to comply will result in immediate expulsion of Krile's Scion associates. Despite the Forum's judgment, your investigation has not been in vain. You now know that whatever mysterious duties the Forum is trying to carry out began with whatever they discovered in the ethereal sea. A lot has happened in Thavnair. The Thavnair team reports that Nidhana, the alchemist who requested the students' aid, is being held prisoner in the Tower of Zot. The satrap of Ratzahan, the great worm Vritra, has requested the Scion's help and asks you to take care of the tower. It's decided the best approach to this is to divide your forces. One team, proficient in healing, will focus on keeping the captives alive. The other team will search for the tower's core and find a means to destroy it without killing the prisoners. Krile is on the former team. It's been a while since she's been in a combat situation, and she can't help but feel nervous. The battle team succeeds in infiltrating through the tower's defenses and makes it to the top. Krile joins them there with the others. She's deeply disturbed. Something about this place feels wrong. The core is destroyed and the tower starts to collapse. G'raha thinks fast and saves everyone from the fall with a powerful levitation spell. The Scions return to Radzahan, and Krile aids with healing the tempered. Krile and her friends are overdue for some relaxation. They share dinner together, a nice respite from recent events. G'raha asks Krile about her experience playing host to Hydaelyn. It was a tiring affair, but no lasting harm was done. She wishes she could have spoken with her longer, and she hasn't felt a hint of her presence since. The Scions prepare their infiltration of Garlemald. They've put together the Ilzabard contingent, intent to stop the Telophoroi on their own turf. Krile, however, chooses to stay behind. As much as she would like to escape the Forum's watchful gaze, she has little choice. You're already on thin ice, and if the official representative of the students of Baldesion was found consorting with foreign powers, they would be most displeased. The Scions go through many ordeals in their quest through Garlemald, not least of all the Warrior of Light. After infiltrating the Tower of Babel, you confront Fandaniel and Xenos. They are attempting to siphon ether to the moon and release Zodiark. Hydaelyn cannot allow it. She calls out to Krile, faint and desperate, and Krile offers herself as her vessel once more. She sends Krile through the lifestream and arrives at the top of the tower. As Fandaniel and Xenos try to make their escape to the moon, Hydaelyn shifts the flow of ether, sending them far from their destination and buying you a little time. She diverts the ether once more. She redirects it so you can join with her ally on the moon, the Watcher. Zodiark must not be freed. She has asked too much of Krile, and she begs you, tend to her. Krile is taken back to Sharlayan to recover, while you set off to stop your foes on the moon. It is there where Fandaniel and Zodiark become no more. With the death of Zodiark, the final days have begun to manifest. It first appears over Thavnair, transforming the people into terrifying blasphemies. The Scions go to their aid, but Krile is too weak from her recent ordeal to join them. Instead, she works with Tataru to identify other places the final days may be affecting. As it spreads across the realm, the two of them coordinate the Scions' efforts to fight back against the threat. Krile also attempts to commune with Hydaelyn and Labyrinthos once more, but to no avail. She spent a vast amount of her power in the confrontation with Fandaniel, and she is presently unable to communicate. Krile and Tataru have been keeping a close eye on the activities of the Forum. They discover that they've been constructing a vessel to ferry people to the moon. The Warrior of Light has also discovered the source of the final days, the Enteleki, Medion, who has traveled to the end of the universe and sings a song of despair. Before she fled the planet, Hydaelyn had placed a tracker on the Enteleki. She would have mankind flee the planet and escape the Song of Oblivion. It's become clear that Hydaelyn must be reached. With the threat of the final days no longer undeniable, the Forum has finally started to cooperate with the Scions. They had constructed a new facility for the purpose of surveying the ethereal sea, the Eidoscope. Through it, the Scions travel through the sea to seek after Hydaelyn. In those swirling depths, there are pockets of ether so dense and turbulent that they can unravel one's souls. To help mitigate that risk, Krile stays behind and watches over you. As one familiar with the composition of your souls, she is best suited to the task. She has thought a lot about this, and she doesn't believe she is fit to join you in the trials ahead. She has always found herself lacking compared to the others. As much as she wishes it otherwise, this is not the time to have a weak link in your vanguard. By assisting you in this way, she may at least be of some use. She guides you through Link Pearl, keeping you alert to a myriad of threats. But given the density of the ether, the connection is unable to hold as you traverse deeper. But even as you lose touch with Krile, she is ever watching over you. Deep in the ethereal sea, Hydaelyn awaits in front of the Mother Crystal. She would test the Scions to see if humanity is ready to face despair. You surpass her expectations, and she entrusts the fate of the universe to you. Her duty complete, Hydaelyn is allowed to fade away at last. With Sharlayan's ship, the Ragnarok, the Scions travel to the edge of the universe to stop Medion once and for all. Krile stays behind with the others, praying for your success. While waiting, she has a vision of the final days here in Sharlayan. She's anxious, but tries to reassure herself that her friends will be okay. A man has arrived on the shore of Sharlayan. He claims to be an associate of the Scions, the last man anyone would expect to lend his aid. It's Xenos, and he would like to strike a bargain with Krile. In exchange for lending the Scions his aid, Krile is to give him a means to travel to the edge of the universe. This request leaves her truly torn. Forced to make a decision, she agrees to his terms. She allows him to feed on what remains of the Mother Crystal. Xenos takes the form of the dragon Shinryu and travels the light of the stars to aid the Warrior of Light. And so the Scions are victorious, and the final days are averted. They return home, where Krile and the others await to greet them. In the end, Xenos was true to his word. After aiding in the defeat of Medion, he fell to the Warrior of Light's hand. Though all turned out well, Krile feels an immense guilt for her decision to aid him. Her decision almost cost you your life, and no words can express her remorse. Since their founding, the Scions of the Seventh Dawn have made a great many accomplishments, but the time has come to pass the torch. From now on, it falls to the Grand Company of Eorzea and its allies to deal with the realm's crises. The former Scions will stay out of the spotlight, working independently on problems that want for solving. Time and time again, Krile has felt inadequate. She's never been much use in battle. It always fell to you and the others. She must, no, she will do better. And she will start by restoring the students of Baldesion. Through their work, Sharlayan will strengthen its ties with other nations, that they may be better prepared for whatever threats arise in the future. And she won't be alone. She'll have the aid of Raha and the other remaining students. Together, they will continue Galif's work. Restoration of the students has been going slow and steady. They've begun compiling old records of the students' activities. It can be said that the students of Baldesion have accomplished their goal of interpreting Hydaelyn's will. However, Krile believes that by continuing to seek out the unknown and dealing with threats, they best carry on the students' mission, to honor Galif and his comrades, who made the ultimate sacrifice to protect the world. The students have received a request for aid from Rambros of the Sons of St. Koinak. Something has happened in Mordona, uncharted territory. An adventurer named Derek has claimed to have discovered the Phantom Realm. You and Graha investigate and discover the Phantom Realm is actually the seventh heaven, the home of the 12. The gods await you there, seeking to issue their challenge and fulfill their dream. Graha apprises Krile of the situation. You learn that these entities are not primals, but genuine gods. They encourage you to seek knowledge of the 12, discover who they are, and what they aspire to do. As this matter has implications for the entire star, the students of Baldesion formally accept the commission. Krile recruits an acquaintance from Sharlayan to aid in the investigation, Snogim, an expert in mythology. Two things have caught Krile's attention in the seventh heaven. First is the gate in the innermost area. What lies beyond it? The second is the monument erected at the center. It harbors some manner of magic, unlike anything she's seen. She'll try to decipher it, but it will take some time. Krile and Graha return to Sharlayan and retrieve an etheric analyzer for the investigation. It records the waveform of the ambient ether, providing detailed data of the environment. This should allow you to ascertain the true nature of the Phantom Realm. The Forum has approved of your investigation and granted use of the device, along with their financial backing. Despite the students' greatly reduced scale, the Forum has faith in their endeavors, but they can't depend on them indefinitely. They must stand on their own 2 feet again, and it begins with this investigation. While Graha and the Warrior of Light continue to investigate the different heavens, Krile examines the monument with Snogim. The magic of the monument is some form of epigraph. It's currently incomplete, and as such, it can't be read. If the missing information can be filled in, it should be possible to make sense of it. The gods have decided to help you decipher the monument. They believe even if you learn of its purpose, you'd still be willing to lend them your aid. Taking the forms of animal avatars, everyone splits up to retrieve information from the marks of the 12, stones scattered across the realm. Krile is joined by Nafika and Byragot to investigate the marks in the 12's wood. Graha's concerned for her, but she reassures him she'll be fine. Derek took notice of this, and it troubled him. Something seemed to weigh on her mind. After investigating the marks in Kurthus, Derek insists on checking up on her. He's worried. Krile has been behaving strangely. She requested Nafika and Byragot to stay behind in Gridania, and allow her to investigate on her own. Traveling to the South Shroud, she successfully acquires the information from Beauregot's stone and makes her way to Althix. Derek and the others catch up with her here. He's curious why Krile would want to travel alone. She admits she wanted to seek answers in her own way. Having seen a dear friend embark on countless adventures, she's developed the desire to see and experience the world for herself. Despite the dangers, she wanted to prove she could handle them. Derek sees something in her eyes, a yearning for exploration and discovery. Having extracted all the information from the stones, Krile is ready to decipher the monument. She can now read out the epigraph. It speaks of the duties of the 12. They are listed one by one. But there's an additional figure at the end. He who is unnamed, who shall watch unflinching. His duty, to stand guard over his charge, always and unto the end. The monument is speaking of the Watcher, Hydaelyn's ally on the moon. He was one of her collaborators from the time of the ancients, and he now lives eternal on the moon's surface. This revelation could only mean one thing. The other members of the 12 were also Hydaelyn's collaborators, and they continue her work to protect the star. Krile and G'raha return to Sharlayan to investigate the data from the etheric analyzer. The waveforms recorded reveal something unsettling. In the course of fighting you, the gods have expended a tremendous amount of ether, so much so as to dilute their very essence. If you continue to fight them, they will die. You meet with the Watcher on the moon and ask him for his insight. He admits that he is the 13th unnamed being listed in the epigraph. He and the 12 were created by Hydaelyn to serve a purpose, to preserve equilibrium on the star and entrust it to the new life that has emerged. Now that Hydaelyn is no more and the final days averted, the 12 have arrived at a decision regarding their own fate. To give themselves unto the star as a blessing, to return their essence to it, where it might give rise to new life. The students of Baldesion have completed their investigation and learned more truths of this world. Her duty complete, Krile and G'raha return to Sharlayan, awaiting their next big assignment. Krile continues sorting through the students' archives. She's befriended one of the gleaners, Erenville, and the two of them occasionally swap information. From forgotten ruins to mysterious relics, if there's aught that might be of interest to the students, he lets them know. But he must soon depart. He may be gone for a while, and he's come to let Krile know and bid her farewell. He's leaving for a homecoming, but he will not elaborate further. You and your companions have come to seek Krile's help, and you walk in on the two of them. You seek the means to travel to the void, and you would appreciate their input. You need to amass a great amount of ether, and the Isle of Ham is the perfect place to acquire it. The Forum's permission is required to step foot on the Isle, and Krile offers the students full support. Leave the politics and the paperwork to her. You and your companions set off to face your latest threat, and Erenville parts ways for his homeland. Krile continues to organize the students' archives, and she finds something, a letter. It's quite old, and it's addressed to her grandfather. It comes from Tuliolal, but she struggles to make it out. It's a commission to investigate the Golden City in Tiral. Despite the letter's age, she's never heard of such a commission, nor is there any information about it in the archives. There's something else included in the letter, an earring bearing the motif of a clover. But how does this relate to the petition? Erenville has returned, and he's brought someone with him. They stop by the Baldesion Annex looking for you, and ask Krile to give you a message on their behalf. You meet up with them in front of the studium, and are introduced to Erenville's companion. It's Wook Lamat, the daughter of Tiral's king, Galul Jaja. She's crossed the seas to seek out a champion to aid her as she competes for the throne of Tuliolal. She has sought out you, the warrior of light. Rumor has it that the king's contest will involve the fabled city of gold. This all sounds familiar to Krile. It's just like what was written in that letter she found for her grandfather. Wook Lamont wants to go on a hunt with you and your companions to get better acquainted and prove yourselves capable and dependable. Krile has something she'd like to prepare. She tells you to go on ahead, and she'll join you as soon as possible. You and the others head to the Isle of Ham to take down a beast that has been terrorizing the local fauna. It's as you're fighting the beast that Krile joins you. She's had a change of attire and wields a new weapon. With a stroke of her brush, she takes down your hunt with a magic you've never seen before. After hearing of the contest, Krile thought about how wonderful it would be if she could join you. She thinks about all the adventures you've had so far, how many times she's had to stay behind, while you and the others were in the forefront of the action. She's recognized that her skills have been inadequate, and as such, has always provided support from afar. It pained her to stay behind, again and again. And so, she was inspired to change. Since the final days were averted, she's been using every spare moment she's had to hone her new craft. Deliberating how she might best contribute, she arrived at her answer. Pictomancy, the esoteric art passed down by the legendary Archon realm. She doesn't want to be left behind anymore. Graha is curious why she's so keen to be involved in this contest. She reveals the letter she found in the students' archives, a request to her grandfather from Galul Jaja to investigate the Golden City. She shows this to Wook Lamont, asking for her input. She tells Krile it wasn't her father who wrote this letter. It's entirely in Eorzean, and if Galul Jaja had written it, it would be in Turali. But the signature on the letter is genuine. Though he may not have written it, perhaps he dictated it. It's now confirmed that Galif had dealings with Tuliolal, and Krile is curious to know what he was doing there. But the students of Baldesion have only just begun getting on their feet again. As much as she wants to travel to Tural, she can't simply leave the students behind. But Graha reassures her. Leave the students to him. Krile has the rare opportunity to retrace her grandfather's steps, and he insists she takes it. The stage is set, and the dawn of a new journey awaits. It's time to venture forth to Tural, and Krile will not be left behind. Not this time.